And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show with head coach Steve Bordeaux. Of course, I'm your host, Keith Womack, for tonight's show. The Yellow Jackets improved a couple of weeks ago to 6-0 overall and 2-0 in the Sand Hills 3A, 4A conference in their last game. Of course, that was 11 days ago with a 27-16 victory at Hope County. And this week, we'll try to stay atop the conference as the Yellow Jackets host the Pinecrest Patriots. We remind you that our coaches show this season's air live every Tuesday night here at 7 o'clock on 105.5 WFJA Sports. And these shows will re-air 1 hour prior to game time each Friday night. Video of each coach's show will be posted on Wednesdays on the homepage of the WFJA website and the WFJA Facebook page. Our coaches shows each week are brought to you by some great sponsors. And of course, we hope that you will go by and visit those folks and thank them personally, and because they do a great job, and we can only bring it because of what they do. And of course, they are Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring in head coach Steve Bordeaux. We'll be back for the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show right after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back once again to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show. I'm your host, Keith Womack, and of course, this is week 8 in the conference. And of course, I'm joined by head coach Steve Bordeaux. Yellow Jackets coach coming off of a hard-fought 27-16 victory over 4A Hope County in their last game, their last conference game. Congrats on the victory, and coach, just give us your thoughts on the Hope County game.
Yeah,
it's been a couple weeks ago.
I feel like it's been a long time. We've been through a storm. Hope everybody made it through well. The Hope County game was a physical game. It was a game that made us play 4 quarters, which were things that we need to continue to help us improve and to test us. The things that I was happy with were our team responded to those things, and we were also physical back. Obviously, we ran the ball really well in the game, right at 300 yards rushing, and passed it and handled it when we needed to there.
Well, Coach, I thought there were 2 things that really stood out. Actually, there were 3 things that really stood out for me in that game. One, and we'll talk about this a little later, but Adesanya and a hit that he put on the running back for, was it Wallace?
Yeah,
for Hope County. That was a pop.
Yep.
The second thing that stood out was you got to remember it was a 3-point game, I think 13-10, when they had just kicked a 33-yard field goal. Excellent kicker for Hope County, by the way. And then JoJo Jennings comes alive, and that what was it, 54-yard run where he just wasn't going to go down. That stood out to me. And then finally, I think the last drive where B.J. Brown just kind of took over.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. I think the drive where they come out after halftime and we hold them to a field goal ended up being a good thing for us defensively. They had moved the ball on us a little bit there, and we were able to bend and not break and force a 33-yard field goal is a pretty decent distance in high school. And shoot, watching college and pros these days, that's a long kick. But the kid made it. The running, like he's talking about with Joe, he gets to the sideline, and I felt confident we were getting a first down when I made the play call. And then he made the one guy miss, pushed one guy down. Like he said, nobody else really wanted to tackle him. And the last drive, BJ, even with as many carries as he had, was still determined, fresh, was ready for more. So that was great to see.
Well, Coach, we came into this game and we were really high on the running back situation for both teams. Wallace last year had about 70 yards in the game at Lee County, but he's been tearing it up so far this year for Hope County. I think he had over 1,000 yards, so he was doing very well. And of course, B.J. Brown had 1,000 yards after the first half of his 5th game. which was pretty impressive. Didn't run the ball much the second half on that fifth game. So we knew it was going to be a battle between two just good, really good, in fact, two of the top 10 state running backs in the state. And they were pretty even through about maybe midway through the third quarter. But, boy, the final results. B.J. Brown, 244 yards on 30 carries. I just thought an outstanding night.
Yeah, B.J. did a great job. Joe with the big run. Almost 289 yards rushing, looking at our little cheat sheet right there. And all that starts with the offensive line. Offensive line is a big senior group with a couple young guys mixed in playing. And without that group, none of the rest of it matters. The quarterback's not standing up. Running backs aren't hitting those holes. So hats off to the offensive line paving that way. Another thing I was happy to see, receiving wise, we have 4 guys that play a whole lot, and they block their butts off for those long runs. All of them call a pass, so I was happy to see we kind of spread the ball around a little bit more in the Hope game.
As a matter of fact, that Jennings touchdown run for 54 yards, there were some wideouts that were really throwing some key blocks. But I don't know, it was just something different. I thought Jennings on that run, and then BJ on that last series with the last touchdown that the Yellow Jackets scored. The line did their job, and then once they got out into the secondary, I mean, they were just determined to not go down.
No, right. That's a great word to say. Determined. They both were, and thankfully they were.
Yeah, and JoJo, to his credit, hasn't been 100% all year.
He hasn't.
Which makes it even
close.
more impressive.
Right. We've kind of limited his snaps the last couple weeks. Hopefully, this bye week we've had has helped him get refreshed as well.
Well, Coach, we've got some games coming up in the conference. I'm trying to pull it up now. In fact, I do want to go through because since we didn't do a show last week, just wanted to remind everybody, of course, Lee County defeated Hope County 27-16. In that same week, Scotland County defeated Southern Lee by a 63-34 score. Pinecrest defeated Richmond 30-27, so it must have been a heck of a game in that one. And, of course, Union Pines did not play. And then last week when the Yellow Jackets were off, Richmond County was able to get by Hoke 40-21. Pinecrest just really put it to Southern Lee. They won that game 45-6 over the Cavaliers, and then Scotland County with a big win, putting up 49 points against Union Pines with only 14, and that's kind of what leaves us where we are. And if you look at the standings, Coach, right now the Yellow Jackets on top at 6-0, Pinecrest at 4-2, Richmond County at 3-4, which is very surprising. Scotland County at 4-3. Really, I can't say I'm pretty surprised at that one too. Hope County at 3-4. Union Pines now at 2-4. Cavaliers at 1-6. Kind of puts us to where we're at coming into this week. And of course, Lee County will host Pinecrest at Paul B. Gay Stadium. Just running through this real quick. The Cavaliers will be at Hope County this week. Richmond County will play Union Pines. And the Scots of Scotland County are the ones that are going to be off this week. Coach, going to be an exciting week of football.
Yeah, definitely. So I think week in and week out, everybody has to be ready to roll in our conference. Anybody that overlooks any team, they're liable to leave with not a happy bus ride or happy trip back to the locker room. So we got to continue to step up our standard weekly.
Well, Coach, before we move into, after the break, we'll move into the game coming up this Friday against Pinecrest. Let's go back to that Hope County game a little bit because there were some outstanding plays. We'll talk about some of the players of the games and things like that in a little bit, but it has been 11 days. So what do you guys, when you have a break this big, I know it changes your coaching a little bit, but what have you guys been doing for the last 11 days?
Yeah, so last week, we really talk about focusing on us. We're fixing the things that we need to fix from the Hope County game, things that popped up that we needed to tighten up and to clean up. And as the week went on, we work a couple of things to wrinkles here and wrinkles there to take the next step in our offense and defensive game plans and special teams. And then now we get back to this week, yesterday. We really start focusing on Pinecrest. So the first part of the bye is getting refreshed and focusing and fixing, and now then this week is back to regular game week.
And you've got really a big tough part of your schedule coming up.
Definitely.
Pinecrest, Scotland, Richmond County, all these teams coming in. We'll have a crosstown rival, Cavaliers, to finish the season. How do you feel about your team right now at 6-0? Got to feel good.
Well, yeah, I think any time you can have the O still in your record at any point in the season is a great thing, especially past midway in the regular season. The conference part is obviously the most important thing. Being 2-0 in conference and being able to really control our own destiny. As we talk to the boys about is you don't have to rely on somebody else if you just handle your own business.
Well, Coach, I know we talked about JoJo being a little banged up, nothing major, but not being able to go 100%. We've also had Mark Schlesinger, who missed a game when we went up to Virginia. He struggled with a couple of little nagging injuries. Any other injuries to talk about, or you guys feel like you're pretty healthy going into week 8?
I think the bye week was at a good time for us. Playing 6 football games, and after going through scrimmages, and the summer can be long. That's a really a grind. So get a little chance to get a little bit more ice and get a little bit more love from Coach Womack when needed, to get these boys as fresh as possible for obviously we're planning on playing about 10 more games will be the plan. So hopefully they're all juiced back up.
Well, I can promise you one thing. 105.5
Yes, sir.
WFJ will be right there with
Yes,
you.
sir.
So we're pulling for you all the way. I would like to take just a moment to thank our sponsors again: Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We're going to take a short break and hear from some of these sponsors. We'll be back to talk more Yellow Jacket football right after this.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back once again to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show. I'm your host, Keith Womack, and of course we're joined by Coach Steve Bordeaux. Coach, 2 weeks ago, big victory over Hope County. Some outstanding performances. We've already talked about those. And as you know, Norman Financial Group and Bubba's Subs combined to give us a player of the game. John and I get to choose the one that we believe had the best offensive output for that game. Not necessarily the stats, but just the best offensive game that led to a victory. And then we also get to pick out a defensive player of the game. And, of course, Bubba's Subs donates a free sub to those guys. So they always love that stuff. And, of course, Norman Financial has been a great sponsor for many years. Several key stops, and the hit of the game had to be our defensive player of the game for John and I, and that was Ayo Adesanya.
Yeah, Ayo is a guy that when he hits somebody, he hits somebody. And he's a guy that runs all over the field and makes plays, and really proud to continue to see his development and finding ways to get on the field and contribute, whether it be defense, special teams. Ayo's a guy that is getting it done.
That hit on Wallace reminded me, if you're standing around doing something and there's a car wreck way behind you, but you hear that pop and you automatically turn around, that's what his hit was like, because it had that kind of impact.
It was a big time play. I think it was like a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6 play, and they had the ball in their side of the field, and then it was a 4th and 4. I mean, it was a big time stop with that hit.
And Wallace is just
a big boy,
a big kid.
He was. Yeah.
And of course, he was our defensive player of the game. So congratulations to Adesanya. And then our offensive player of the game. I don't think there's any question here, even though we had some great effort by several people. B.J. Brown with another outstanding game, 244 yards in the Hope County game. Coach now with 1,264 through 6 games, and there's been many a quarter that he hadn't played because of the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I looked it up on the way here just to see. He's currently 2nd in the state. I was unsure how it was going to work with us having to bye last week. If a couple people might jump him, but he's 2nd in the state, holding through the bye week. So most importantly, we continue to be successful and continue to win. But it's always nice to see Jackets on the top of any type of scoreboard and leaderboards.
Well, that was the kind of effort against Hope County that reminded me, I hate to bring back bad memories, but Will Shipley in the state championship game, how he dominated offensively for their team. And I think that's kind of what BJ did outside of that run that we had from JoJo earlier. But anyway, congratulations to BJ Brown now with 1,264 yards through 6 games. Just an outstanding effort. And of course, we also have another sponsor, Wilkinson's Cadillac Chevrolet GMC Buick, who also has a player of the game that is named by the coaching staff. I'm sure you guys huddled up together, figured out who had the biggest impact overall on the game for you guys last Friday night. And Coach, we'll let you talk about who that is.
Yeah, so we went with JoJo. Joe is affecting the games in multiple ways. Obviously had the huge touchdown run that was a big momentum play. Defensively, we moved him around a little bit, and he greatly affected the game on defense. Had a huge stop that actually, I believe, forced that field goal attempt that we talked about earlier. So he was very determined, I think was the word we used earlier. And I think that was something that when Joe decided in that game that he wasn't going to be blocked, he wasn't. And on that play where he scored them on touchdown, he decided he wasn't going to be tackled. He wasn't. So we got to keep working on those type of plays and get them more often.
And JoJo's a big kid, too.
JoJo is big, yes, sir.
And when healthy, he's tough.
He can roll, yes, sir.
He's tough when he's not healthy. Well, Coach, obviously against Hope County, our defensive line did a great job against the Hope County ground game. We were expecting big things from Wallace, who was a really good running back. And, of course, Friday night against Pinecrest, we're going to see another good rushing attack. Tell us a little bit about what you know about Pinecrest.
Yeah, so Pinecrest has done a really good job running the ball as well. They do a good job of using multiple guys to hand the ball off to. Passing game-wise, they have a receiver that roughly 80 to 100 yards a game has been getting. So they definitely target him in the passing game. He's a vertical threat, but they also do a good job of getting to him the ball, whether it's some screens or some things underneath. But bread and butter, they've got multiple running backs and an offensive line that is very talented. I'm sure if you ask Coach if they just run the ball, they're probably just going to run the ball. So we're going to have to do a good job up front to keep that from happening.
Well, I think they've done a good job all year. But with that being said, has there been any one or two players, or you feel free to name them all, that has really been a surprise in that group that you were expecting good things out of them, but you've gotten great things out of them?
For our guys up front, I don't know. I think we're around the boys so much, and we spend so much time with them. Whether it's in the weight room or on the practice field, we don't get surprised a whole lot by them. We kind of know what's expected. But kids like Braden Kirkland and Ross Johnson, Jay Sally, Aiden Rooney, Jeremiah Phillips, those guys are all seniors. They're playing obviously a lot of snaps for us and doing a great job. Prince Lameson's another guy, underclassman. Devin Richmond. So we rotate a lot of guys in on the defensive line. Ronnie Hooker, a sophomore, even JoJo jumping in the defensive line sometimes too. So a lot of bodies and a lot of kids that can make plays and that have made plays for us.
And one guy, not on the defensive line, I think he's playing linebacker for you guys, but that kind of surprised me because we didn't hear a lot from him last year was Rayleigh Cotton. I think he's played outstanding this year. Yeah, Raleig's
another senior. You're playing some outside linebacker and sometimes strong safety for us that just has a kind of a nose for the football. Scrappy guy. Another guy that's laid some big hits throughout. And similar to Io, a guy that's going to be all over the field, whether it's defense or special teams. And when his number's called, he's going to get the guy on the ground.
Well, we talked about Pinecrest being on offense and our defensive front and even our secondary and our linebackers. Let's flip the field. When the Yellow Jackets have the ball, they're going to be thinking about B.J. Brown. So what is our offensive strategy going to look like going into this Pinecrest game against their defense?
Yeah, so some of it's going to depend on what they come out and they do. They've the few films that we kind of exchanged with them, they did a few different things. They've done a good job of matching up to the teams they've played. They have one really, really talented corner that we'll have to be aware of where he's at on the field. And up front wise, they do a good job of stopping the run. So it'll be one of those things where they have a strength of stopping the run, and we're usually pretty good at running it. So we'll get to see how those two things mesh together.
Offensive line going to be very important.
The offensive line will be very important on Friday night. So
I think we could say that about every Friday night.
Definitely so. Everything with line in front of it, between offense and defensive line, it's going to be important.
Well, Coach, at 6-0, both sides of the ball, even the special teams, the coaching staff. I mean, everybody's been on par. To be 6-0, you don't get that way by mistake.
No, I'm appreciative. We have a great group of assistant coaches that kind of make the thing happen. Everybody doesn't realize all the other stuff besides on Thursday and Friday nights when the lights blink on that happen day to day. That it's kind of like when we get to Friday, it's almost like a relief. We made it to the game, the national anthem plays, and we can just focus on just the football game instead of the 10,000 million other things that go on weekly. But very appreciative to the great group of coaches we have.
Well, Coach, just to remind everybody that wants to go to the game Friday night, it will be at Paul B. Gay Stadium, but it'll be against Pinecrest. And make sure you know to go to gofan.com to get your tickets, and that way you can show up on time. Come early, tailgate.
Yes, sir.
Have some fun. Of course, I'd like to thank you, Coach Steve Bordeaux, for joining us tonight as we get ready for this week's game. And best of luck with Pinecrest on Friday night.
Yes, sir. See you Friday.
All right, we'd like to thank you all for listening. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back for the last time to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show, or last time for tonight. We'd like to remind you that our coaches shows this season will air live every Tuesday night here at 7 o'clock on WFJA Sports. These shows will also re-air 1 hour before the game time each Friday night, and they will also be posted on Wednesdays on the homepage of the WFJA website and the WFJA Facebook page. Our coaches shows each week are brought to you by some just super awesome sponsors, and of course they start with Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We'd like to thank you all for listening to tonight's show. It's about time for some Yellow Jacket football.